Oh, Oklahoma. You're like the troubled cousin that we all try to rally around every Thanksgiving on the other side. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of South Star Classroom for Jubilee and Omar, who will be joining us soon. That's David. I am Charles. David, how are you doing, man? I missed you brothers last week.
Yeah, that's right. Belated happy birthday to you.
I know, man. Cole. Thank you. I know.
Yeah.
I did nothing to celebrate, so there's that. Nothing at all.
We'll get that out of the way. Yeah, man. Things have been good. We start high school next week. My son starts high school next Tuesday. So
freshman, huh?
We got it's crazy, man. Huh? Big school, man. Big school.
What do you say to your son to prepare him to be fresh meat? How do you, especially in a big school?
I say watch your back. And always know where the exits are.
I love that. You can ask 10 random people and it's gonna sound like, am I talking about a freshman in high school or somebody in their first day on the yard in prison? Like, it's the same. Find the biggest one and just
always know where the exits are.
High school is different, man. High school is very, very different, brother. But how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We are just, like I said, we're just wrapping up summertime. And school starting. So that means like school starting in the home, but also things are getting are picking up with clients, and so they're coming back. So that feels good. And been watching a bunch of the Olympics, you know.
Oh yeah, man, the Olympics been great.
I've been enjoying it. Yeah,
they've been great, man. I was watching some highlights from table tennis, and it's just,
oh my goodness,
it is ridiculous. It is just ridiculous. I was watching U.S. basketball too just now before we started. I got it taped, so I'll finish it later. But they pretty much handled Brazil. But nah, man, it was. What's been your favorite sport so far to watch this summer?
Yeah, good question. I'm always a big fan of gymnastics. I appreciate gymnastics. What else have we been watching? We've pretty much been watching everything. I mean, I'm a big cyclist, so I watch all the cycling events.
Oh, dope.
Watching all the skateboarding events that have come that have already happened, and watching surfing, mainly a lot of the newer sports. You know, the surfing has been pretty cool. They're doing the surfing this year is happening in like Tahiti, right, the other side of the French Polynesia. So it's not happening in France. They're doing it you know, across the globe at a very particular break called Chiopu.
And that's for the cycling?
No, it's for the surfing.
I thought they were doing it in Hawaii.
No, it's in the South Pacific, but not in Hawaii. Yeah, it's in the vicinity.
I know some of the stuff was like they had to do it in different places, but I really thought one of the runs was in Hawaii or something, or maybe it was a Hawaiian that they were talking about at the moment. But I know there's a few events that just you just can't do in Paris because it doesn't have.
Yep.
You don't have the waves. You don't have, you need that kind of South Pacific kind of. Yeah.
And we got the I was watching the and I don't know what team it was, but there was a one of the team synchronized swimming.
Oh man, they've been crazy.
Women's team. They did they were doing it to Michael Jackson, and they were underwater and they're moonwalking. That was crazy.
Upside down underwater moonwalk to a sped up Michael Jackson.
Yeah, holding their breath and like moonwalking upside down.
Can I tell you how much of a capitalist I guess I am, or just somebody that I'm like, is this legal? Like, I'm like, wait, do you have to get permission, or is that why it's sped up? Or, like, is it disrespectful to like use a song from a different country if you represent the other country? Like, it's really
good question. I'm sure they all have to be cleared, but and then coming up, we have I don't think they may have started, but we've got breakdancing coming up.
Okay.
So brand new to the Olympics.
I think it's the first year, right? Yeah, first time they had the 3-on-3 basketball this year. Which was interesting. Very different. And it's like, you know, they figuring out the rules on a lot of this stuff, because it's like, wait, how are these the cats for the 3-on-3 here? There's a whole league. You know, Ice Cube wasn't feeling it either, but we'll see how that goes, man. I'm interested in what the breakdancing is and how you judge it. That's my only thing, though, with like, and I used to love gymnastics. I used to flip when I was younger, not to that level, but I used to love flipping and flipping off of things. But I'm always nervous when it's the subjective sports, when it's like, if you're a big name, like, it's like, is there some way that we can, like, without it, like racing, like that race where Noah just won? Did you see that, where it was like a photo finish? I mean, it's like 5,000 of a set. I mean, it's ridiculous, but at least that's like black and white. It's like, okay, who got through first, as opposed to style points. So it's gonna be interesting to see breakdancing. That's your generation coming back, man. I mean, you know, I was a little young when breakdance was at its height. But before we go into that, and I've been fine, man. I worked. I worked over the weekend and had some work to do during my birthday, so I have not celebrated yet. But I'll be going next week. I'll be out the country. But it was, you know, I was in Indianapolis doing a training around the agentic black parent with a group of parents, and honestly, I just love doing that. Like, if there was a world where I could where money wasn't necessarily the issue, where I can make sure I was making really good money, I would just do that. Like, I would just do that and write and speak, and, you know, some podcasts and stuff. But that is the best thing that I do, is walking parents or community members through this stuff and helping them figure it out, and watching the moment where they go from not knowing to knowing. So it's going to be interesting. Before we hop into the big topic, though, let me get through some of these comments. But I wanted to share something with you that you hadn't seen yet, and I want to get your thoughts. I think it'll be funny. But first off, let's say, hey, Mama Toya, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. Thank you for being here. We got Bill in from Joliet. He seems to be pumped about Harrison Walks. I think she did a good job picking who she picked. Bill with his very Bill comment of the prosecutor against the perp. I love Bill's excitement when we do our show. Keep it coming. And then Alonzo is acknowledging the Beard of Knowledge's breakdancing with the John Travolta emoji over there, man. Listen, man, y'all don't know about, you know what I'm saying, about that man over there. You feel me? That man's a whole DJ with a whole DJ joint. And then my boy David, my other homie David, it's one of my best friends. Hey, I love the show as always. Keep up the good work. So yeah, man. You wanna comment to Alonzo before I go to this new joint, man? They don't know about your hip hop roots out here, son.
Oh man, no. I mean, that could be a whole different show. But I was definitely around for the genesis of breakdancing. I was in like early middle school. Like, we were there, like, when it was happening. We were like, you know, we were doing the whole thing, man. And got to meet several of the famous breakdancing crews that would travel from, like, New York, not to San Diego, but to LA. And we would go up to LA for competitions. So got to meet, like, several members of the New York City Breakers and other crews like Crazy Legs. This is like in the 1980s. Wow. So, you know, it was like one of those things where, like, I was there. It happened.
Were you into like,
I don't know, my parents, I don't know, my parents would just let me pile into a random car with random dudes and drive up to LA for like 2 days, you know?
But wasn't that, I mean, it seemed like an interesting time. I mean, again, not to age you or date you, but I think that was around the time breakdancing was getting big. I think skateboarding was starting up during that time. It's like all this, like this huge, like, cacophony of all these different cultural moments. Punk rock was probably still around, or
punk rock, rock music. You know, we lived in San Diego, so reggae was always an element. Breakdancing wasn't always like a rap or hip hop. Early, it was like electro, right? And then you had like rap music too. It was all kinds of stuff, man. I've
always seen a lot of Asians take to breakdancing. I've always seen tagging and breakdancing. I've always seen a lot of like Asian culture, Filipino culture take to that. So always really interesting. I think the other thing, what you probably appreciate about a Chicago place, again, I'm from a different generation, but they have this intertwinement of like hip hop and house music. It's like,
yeah,
I think you as a DJ is probably, I think DJs.
Oh yeah, that's where house music was created and born at the Warehouse, right, with Frankie Knuckles, and going back even further. Yeah, you've got a whole bunch of other people, but yeah, man, Chicago definitely has a very rich history of I'd say dance music.
That's what's up, man. Well, that's what's up, man. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Alonzo, because anytime we can pull the build of knowledge to have this type of conversation is always lovely. I have a video that I want you to see, and I want to show it to you. I'm very interested. So you haven't seen any of this, right? So here's the context: a single mom, and it's a note she got about classroom supplies. And then let's play it, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, so according to the comments under the video that I just saw, y'all not gonna like this take, but I'm not understanding why my baby's school supplies are their classroom supplies. Like, I'm a first-time mom. My baby's getting ready to start school for the first time in August. I went a little bit crazy with her school supplies. Went ahead and put her name on everything, labeled everything down, matching this and that. And I just saw a video where teachers are commenting saying that they're going to be removing labels from school supplies, because apparently when you bring your kids' school supplies in, they either put them in a big container for everybody to use, or they put them away and distribute them amongst the class when needed. I'm confused. I am a single mom. I work hard for my shit. So if my baby decides that she wants matching Frozen everything, I'm going to buy that for her. And as fucked up as this is going to sound, I don't care that the school isn't giving you a budget to buy classroom supplies. The government not giving me a budget to buy school supplies. The same tax break I get, you get. This ain't just for the teachers. This is for the parents too. It's poor outside for everybody. Call me all the ignorance you want, but I'm honestly confused. Okay, so according to the comments under the video that I just saw, y'all not.
Okay. Yeah, let me stop it. So again, you hadn't seen it. I'm glad you hadn't seen it. This hit I actually am friends with the person that posted this, not the lady speaking, but it's like 4 million plus views at that time. So this might even be more. That was a few days ago when I last checked. But what are your thoughts on what she's saying? And I'm very interested because I saw a lot of debate. There was a lot of debate underneath that post, and from either side that made a lot of sense. So yeah, I just thought it'd be a good icebreaker before we got into the larger topic today.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. I think I think if you are a parent and you are going to purchase supplies for your child to use in school, I mean, that's stuff that's coming out of your pocket. And there might be some cases where some materials might be shared, but I don't think that's the responsibility of other parents to pitch in there. I mean, I think that's where the school needs to get involved, and maybe schools can't buy materials for everybody, but they can be creative about having some stuff kind of on the side for students that might not be able to afford basic supplies. I don't think it's fair to. That sounds very complicated, and as a former school leader, I would never try anything like that, because it just takes one parent to raise a red flag, and then you're dealing with that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna miss Jubilee on this one, because I think I definitely agree with you. I think it's one thing to ask parents, right? I used to get the list as a kid. They probably like Kleenex is something everybody would contribute to, or things like that, right? But I think it was the manner in which they went about this. Like she said, "Hey, single mom, but my daughter likes whether it's Frozen or whatever the case is. I'm getting her all the stuff that matches," and to just be like, "I'm taking this." And this is what I'm doing. I would probably have some feelings too. Like, again, I think, I think the way you do things is very interesting.
Yeah, you gotta put it. If you're gonna do something like that, you've got to put it out there. You need to run it by maybe a smaller body of parents to get some initial feedback. And, if you were going to try something like that, I would not suggest doing it. But if you are going to, you've got to communicate early, so people know what to expect. You don't want parents finding out after something's already happened, right?
Right.
Especially if it involves money out of your pocket. There's different forms of that. Like we used to do. One of the schools I ran was very, very economically mixed in terms of like family income levels. We had parents from the hills and parents from the heartland of Oakland. And so what we would do with some, say like an off-campus learning activity is we would say it's going to, or like a sixth grade camp or whatever. We're like, here's the base price. Okay. If you can pay this, pay this. If you can't, pay what you can. If you can't pay anything, then we would ask other parents to intentionally like basically provide scholarships, right? But they knew what they were doing, right? It was transparent. They knew what they were doing. And that way we could, make sure everybody had an opportunity. But it would never play around. You're basically playing around with people's money if you're not telling them.
Right. And not just money, but like you're also just doing this without talking to me. I think people generally want to help and can be helpful. But you can't just like take somebody's stuff. As our guy Omar comes in, let me read from Dr. Kiana Warren, who runs a network in Indianapolis. And thank you for joining us. She said our school provides school supplies without asking parents or teachers to pay out of pocket. That solves the issue for us. And I think it's a huge blessing that's able to happen, man. I think you might have missed Omar. Did you see the video that we had posted around the single mom who was upset because she bought her daughter all this like stuff for school supplies and then matched and all that, and the school took it basically and redistributed all of her materials. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Much.
Right. And again, I think that mother was reasonable. I think that she said, look, the same way, like you can't just take my stuff. Like I'm sorry that they don't give you a budget, but I work hard for mine. I'm not getting this. It was just something light to kind of start with. I was just curious, how does the issue come up for you, Omar, as a school leader, a systems leader? One, do y'all deal with these type of issues at the beginning of your schools? And two, how do you all solve for, these potential problems?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I mean, for the most part, a lot of our kids are low income. So what we do is we garner a ton of sponsorship to give kids free materials, which by the way, like El Paso school districts do that as well. Understanding our low income population, and like hats off to our local school districts who do this. They get free packages of stuff every single year to basically say, we know that you struggle to make ends meet. Here, like all of your basic supplies set up for the year. So like, how would I deal with that? I mean, we're giving away free supplies to all of our kids. Those in need of backpacks, we're sponsoring it. I think there is like distributive material, but that's like Kleenexes. It's like, please bring in 3 boxes of Kleenexes.
That's what I said. Like we started with Kleenex,
Right, exactly.
Hand sanitizer now probably, but yeah,
exactly. Whereas like the supplies themselves are kept to the students because it's like, here's what you need, but you're going to be particular about what you want. If you don't want the stuff that we want, go for it. Like grab your stuff. So, are you all having this conversation? And I'm sorry I'm late. Are you all having this conversation in context of like what's going on in Oklahoma?
No. We were waiting for you. This was a Lucy. And as we transition into that, and I'll throw it to you, David, on Oklahoma, I'll just say this. Okay. When I remember being in school and like, I remember Trapper Keeper was like the Ferrari. Like if you had a kid with a Trapper Keeper and Lunchables.
Say by the bell, Trapper Keeper, baby.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, right? Like that and Lunchables, like the kids with Lunchables, I was so jealous of these people. And Trapper Keepers were like that thing. So our school used to do like little raffles or things, or you could earn points and they'd have like the cool stuff, but they turn into incentives, right? Like if you win like the little reading competition, you can get the Trapper Keeper. But you'd be interested in we're always going to find a way to see who is the have-nots and the haves. But anyway, enough for that. Thank you for being here, Omar. David, why don't you lead us into our main topic that will take us through the rest of the show?
Yeah. So we've talked about this particular individual, and we've definitely talked about Oklahoma, but we're going to focus the rest of our time today on the show talking about what the hell is happening in Oklahoma. So I want to start out with some basic definitions. We're going to be talking about the state superintendent of public instruction. His name is Ryan Walters, I think. And he's a very interesting individual. Every state has a superintendent of public instruction, and it's an elected office. And so what their main roles are, focusing on education policy and funding issues, advocacy around funding, policy implementation, public accountability, data and reporting. It's very much a bureaucratic role, at the heart of it. It is not necessarily a political role, meaning a partisan political role. If you're an elected official, you're going to be involved in politics, but not necessarily the type of culture war politics that we're seeing Ryan Walters engage in. So I'm going to provide a couple of examples here of what we're talking about. And then Omar, I'd love for you to take a deep dive on the one piece that you brought forward. So first off, the superintendent of Oklahoma, Ryan Walters, was elected. Before he was elected, he worked for an organization that advocated for school privatization and school choice, right? That's his background. So he did work with, funders like the Waltons and so many others that we are familiar with, right? We've been in these rooms. I've been in these rooms. Yep. You've been in these rooms. Omar, you've been in these rooms. So that's his background. And he was elected to run the state's public education system. Okay. He's quickly aligned himself with quote unquote right-wing, conservative movements, meaning, Moms for Liberty, who we've talked about. He's brought them in as a partner in education in the state. He's attended their national summit several times, advocating for parental rights and school choice. He's supported legislation like the House Bill 1775, which essentially made it very difficult to teach about anything other than white history, right, in the state of Oklahoma, restricting the teaching of race and gender topics. Last year was pushing a campaign to have educators in schools track the financial impact of students that were in this country undocumented, actually like tracking how many students and which students were documented and documented. You run a school system, Omar. I run school systems. Like that's not, that level of data goes above and beyond, what we're supposed to be doing as public institutions. But he's, basically asking for that level of information. And most recently, this new push to teach the Bible in schools, right? To incorporate the Bible in schools. Yeah. And so you have all these things happening in Oklahoma. At the same time, when we look at academic indicators just across the board, Oklahoma is typically between 45 and 50th out of 50 states for educational outcomes. If we looked at Native American students, if we looked at African American students, Latino students, we know what the data would show. It would be even worse. So you actually have a real crisis in Oklahoma. And I don't think Jesus is going to save it or teach the kids how to read better.
What? That's what Jesus came back to do.
So that's where we are. And Omar, why don't you tell us what you've heard about this this 10 Commandments mandate?
I tell you about like the one in Oklahoma or the one that's like kind of crossing the nation right now?
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here's a like hot take and what I'm getting from this. And like, remember we talked about this started in like Louisiana, right? So the Louisiana state superintendent and governor got really uppity and decide we're going to post the 10 Commandment in every single classroom in every single state school. So from LSU down to kindergarten, you've got don't covet thy neighbor's wife. So that's awesome. What I think is happening in a viral world where you're only garnering attention by doing ludicrous things in order to galvanize the zeitgeist and get people talking about you, I think we have ourselves a typical sycophantic, attention needing dipshit in Oklahoma who is, why don't we push these boundaries even further than where Louisiana is at? And we're going to mandate something that he clearly knows is illegal, which is let's teach the Bible and then push the 10 Commandments into every public school in Oklahoma, but not just the 10 Commandments, David. You know this, dude. He's pushing outright teaching of the Bible into every single classroom that's a public school in Oklahoma, which includes OSU and Oklahoma University. So it's not just that he's trying to push this into his K through 12. He's actually advocating this for higher education, which, by the way, like, he doesn't have the authority to do. He's trying, and he can do K through 12, but he's trying to push this across the block. My 2 cents is simply that he's doing this not just to garner attention. He's doing this in an election year to get himself noticed so that he falls under this like whole, you know, Trump-esque kind of person. This is how JD Vance got himself noticed. And in the same vein of JD Vance, who's really just a sellout and an opportunist. Like, is he smart? Yeah, he's a smart dude. Is he educated? Yeah, he's an educated dude. However, the problem with a guy like JD Vance is that you can go all the way back to his college career, defacing one of my alma maters with his like antics. And he's just an opportunistic dipshit who will change his mind to fit whatever paradigm he needs to in order to garner positive attention, which is exactly what this guy from Oklahoma is doing. And here's the problem. This is where I get pissed off about it. This guy is making it all about him and his credo and his desire to get like the Bible, like what part of the Bible? Like he's been unspecific about exactly what he wants to push into the Bible. He's been talking a little bit about Jesus, but are you going to push that whole Sodom and Gomorrah? Like, we're going to have a good lesson about people turning into pillars of salt? How about people dying because they crossed the incorrect threads together? How about the story of Lot and his daughters? We're gonna push that one into the zeitgeist of what's going on, right? Like, you know your Bible. I just think this dude's totally trying to capitalize, much in the same way JD Vance is.
Told his wife not to look back. If his wife didn't look back,
don't look back, baby.
You wouldn't get the next chapter. People always quote the "look back, turn to a pillar of salt," and then what his daughters did after that. But that's a different Sunday school lesson. I'm very Christian, if you can't tell. I'm a Baptist out here. I know we got some Catholics here, so the story of Lot definitely crosses across. All the
what are your thoughts on this, Charles? And I think also I would love to also hear from you, like Ryan Walters is very much cut from that like education reform cloth, right? That we've been part of. So to see a lot of these like people that we probably attended conferences with, maybe even shared a stage with at some point, you know, that are hardcore like charter supporters, school choice people, then enter the realm of the culture wars and they just go full blown like right, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I think that's a good question. I'll answer that, and then there's a liberty I would just like to take on the end of that answer. You know, listen, man, I think that there are people, I think topics, you know, certain topics can make strange bedfellows. So I am somebody that believes in choice. I don't believe in the same type of choice that these people believe in, right? I am somebody who takes my faith very seriously. I could be a much better Christian. I'm very, very much not good at that. But I also believe in the separation of church and state, right? Like I don't think that is fair. I would feel some kind of way if I was forced into having to look at any other religion or things like that. And I think it is a big show. I think it is trying to become a superstar in the Republican Party, and not just the Republican Party, but this new, very, very like super far right party like that's kind of growing. And I think that there are counterparts on the left that are just crazy. I think the super far left is crazy, and I think the super far right are crazy. And I think and the reason why I'm saying that is because there in Berkeley Unified School District at Berkeley High, there is a religious studies class that you can, I think it might even be AP, that you can take that dives into these things, but it's an elective. You can do it and get college credits. Like, people can opt into that. I think that's very different than making something like this mandatory. I think he's trying to become a superstar. I think we're just in the middle of the culture wars, and it's like, who can get these notches? And I also think that it's like, whether I succeed or fail, people will remember the depths in which I went to be able to do this. I think that is crazy on the other side as well. I would just say these topics are always interesting and tough for me on our show, right? Because when, you know, the way I do our vet our topics, I'm like, if there's ever a topic that we all agree on, it's like we're all gonna agree on it, but just in different ways. I think this is one of those. I think these people are fucking crazy. And I think this is crazy. I think it's a show. I don't think this has anything to do with children. I don't think this has anything to do with the welfare of our country per se. I think it's about getting a notch. And I think you will see on the other side of this as well, its own kind of craziness. And stop making me choose between crazy and crazier. I'm just not that guy. I'm just not that guy personally.
Yep. I think with the announcement of the Harris VP selection, right? Another name that was in the hat was in the bag was the Pennsylvania governor Shapiro, right? And now you're seeing a lot of people making claims that he wasn't selected because he's Jewish, and just a lot of crazy nonsense. But an interesting thing about Shapiro was that he actually was he took one of these like out of line with the official Democratic Party line positions on school choice. Mm-hmm. He was a big school choice supporter in Pennsylvania.
Right.
It's probably has nothing to do with why he
didn't get picked. Between
exactly, but
and the Zionist thing, I think between those two, I think they were like, it'll be tough.
Yeah.
Frankly,
I don't think that we shouldn't, like, the Jewish thing. I was like kind of excited about. I will just quick 2 cents. The dude that got chosen is Minnesota. Yeah, you've got Shapiro coming in and helping her out in the Pennsylvania to rally that state. You've got Gretchen Whitmer coming in helping in Michigan. The weakest state she's going to have to pull is Wisconsin. I think they purposely picked this shit because Minnesota, right next to Wisconsin, they're trying to take both of things and solidify the election. But that's a totally different take. You may be absolutely right about the all that other stuff, because teacher unions don't like them school choice people.
My point is like this is an interesting moment because I'm not giving up on any of my like values or ideals around my particular vision of what school choice could look like. But I kind of am, because I just feel like I need the Democrats. I need this ticket to win, right? But if you look at education wise, what we're back to is a Democratic ticket that is like full blown lockstep with unions, and a Republican ticket that is like full blown, like, let's blow up the DOE, let's blow up unions, let's bring back in Betsy DeVos and all these other people. They're just two extremes, and it's like there's no nuance. I mean, the conversation around education is going to be very much going to be like what we can expect, and that's unfortunate. But I guess you got to pick and choose, right?
Yeah, I mean, but like you said, man, I just think that there is whatever. It's almost like the people in the far left and the far right. Let me stop talking about the far left, because this is the far right here. Like, but it's almost like it's like the coach came in before and said, be a star in your role. So if education is one of the levers, then damn it, shake that up and restore our national Christian, Christian nationalist, values. If you are a law enforcement person, then you got to go super over the top on the law enforcement piece. If you're, an anti-EPA person, then you need to go very, very far against the EPA and climate change and things like that. It's like everybody is being challenged at this point. It's like when I was in a basketball team and we were down and the coach is challenging you, like, how was everybody going to step up and be a star in their role? And I think this is how this Oklahoma person is seeing themselves as a star. Like, you know, I might have did something boring, like be the the person in charge of instruction for a state, but I'm going to show you my value and my worth. And I'm going to pull a big lever in what is the culture wars. And I'm going to get a win as an admiral or a general. I really think that's the mentality.
So let's also not forget that Oklahoma is the state, and this the superintendent of public instruction did support the idea, the concept of a public charter school that had a curriculum that was based in religion, right? Which ultimately got shot down. That's why we have checks and balances. But that was another component of this guy. I've got let's see what this actually looks like. This is another angle on this guy. Let's see, 1 second. So here he is, and let's see what he's talking about here. Let's see if we can make any sense of this.
We cannot allow these individuals to continue to teach in the state of Oklahoma. I want to thank Kaya Rachik, who brought this first to my attention of what she found online to show this hateful, nasty rhetoric. And it is a very sad day in politics to see the hatred that's coming from the left to want people assassinated for their beliefs. And I believe teachers are to teach, not indoctrinate. And so we want to make sure to send a message loud and clear that no one will be allowed to teach in the state of Oklahoma if they advocate the assassination of President Trump.
So what he's talking about there, let me get rid of this. If you missed the name, he's referring to the woman that started this Libs of TikTok account, right? And now they're very prominent on social media. And they basically, like, if Omar is a teacher in El Paso and you upload something to your TikTok, Omar, about, you're running the, the LGBTQ program at your school, like, they're going to put you on blast and, like, they're going to make you famous, right? Because of some controversial take. And so what this creator was doing was, not, I wouldn't call her, I guess she's a content creator with the KKK, was, putting out, like, doxing teachers that were expressing their views on this, on the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. I don't think anybody went overboard, but, and then now he is going to use the Libs of TikTok to identify teachers that are teaching within the Oklahoma public school system and, like, work to terminate them, right? Because somebody said something on social media. So that brings up the whole, like, social media aspect. And, but just, like, could you imagine somebody like Tony Thurmond in California doing this? Like, he's not my guy, right? However, he's not this guy either,
No,
just, like,
not at all.
It's like it. I mean, if Tony Thurmond were to go down that rabbit hole and start, I mean, he wouldn't get away with it because he's a black man. We know that. This is like white man territory, right? It's crazy to hear the words that come out of his mouth.
Yeah, man. I think it's crazy, man. I think this is a new level of bird dogging. I think all these things started at a simple place. I think that they started, I mean, if you go back 10 years ago when you and I are at board meetings in Oakland, and it's like, okay, I don't really like this and I don't really like that. And we kind of, we'd have conversations with those people and disagree and whatever. And I think it is so much like, those were like lullabies and romantic walks in the park. Like, this shit is crazy. These people are crazy, man. Like, and it all feels like some kind of holy war. And they're forcing you to take a side. And it's just like, this is not steeped in reality at all. But we live in a time of internet microwave shit where everything got to be hotter than the last thing. It got to be hotter. It got to be hotter. And I think it's going to just keep growing. I truly do. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw another side do, like, I think that's what they used to do, right? They would try to do like a Satanist cult. Like, when religious stuff overstepped the boundary, then they try to start a Satanist group at a school and say, but I thought there's freedom of, such and such, right? It's so much stuff happening in the world, man. Like, it's so much stuff. I just think that we are weakening ourselves from the internal fabric, and it's just it's scary to me, man. It's making me draw back on the political show that Omar and I did a few weeks ago. But I mean, this is right in line with that and right in line with a playbook. And this person's trying to be a star. He's trying to be, he presents well. He doesn't sound crazy. He's like a traditional, maybe like someone may say like an attractive looking white man type situation. Like they're so intentional about what they're trying to present. They're trying to rap crazy in what is quintessential, quote unquote, middle America like looks and ideals. And
that's
people
crazy.
That tell and people that don't might fall for this crap.
Yeah, they're like, well, he looks the part. I mean, he must be saying something, right?
They knew they couldn't get this man if he was overweight. They knew they couldn't get somebody who was traditionally. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like,
of course,
it's like somebody else might have had the message, and they were like, no, not you. Get him. Get that person to do it. But you know, that's my conspiracy theory. But I know Omar is going to take it even further because I'm annoyed. If I'm annoyed, I just want the people to know if I'm annoyed with something politically that leans on our side, Omar is ready to bring fire. So I wanted to just get my little piece out the way and listen to brother.
I don't know, man. I think we vacillate immensely on like the level of annoyed conspiracy and everything else. Okay, let me add something to the context that I think can add a bit of a value add to where we're going with this. I think, Doc, what you said.
I don't know where we're going, by the way. So go ahead.
No, just that's the best part, man. I'm going slightly political versus educational, but I kind of want to fixate this onto how politics are hijacking education right now and how our audience should be really conscientious of what I think is a very like serpentine, clandestine way of manipulating thought and even politics in this country. And by serpentine, I mean snake-like. Like they're filthy fucking snake-like shit that these folks are doing, which is, I think that what the doc said was crazy astute in that we as a right are in a very collective thought train of every capacity that we have to broadcast out the asinine shit that we're propagating, which is we want to go back to a white nationalist society here. Let's do it in education. Let's do it in politics. Let's do it in health. Let's do it at the environmental level. Let's do it, in terms of abortion rights. No more evidence is seen that there was a really interesting article in Rolling Stone that I had to look up because someone was talking about it, and I was like, well, let me look this up. Basically, right now, there's 70 and counting election deniers that are in pivotal positions in every single state of certifying votes. Now, follow me for a second here. So Donald Trump keeps talking about, hey, man, don't worry about going out and voting. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. So Charles is right. Like my conspiracy-driven mind is getting even further in what I think people like this dude in Oklahoma are doing. If you look at what's happening with these certified individuals, with these people who are certifying votes, if they choose to not certify a county and it's left up to the state, there's nothing that the state can do to basically say that these votes count. If they deny the certification of votes from special districts, it could in fact rob the Democratic Party of their victory. This is the kind of clandestine shit that's going on with the Republican Party across the country. And they have judges that were appointed by Trump that will back it up. You've got people embedded into the state superintendentship of places like Oklahoma who are basically pushing these Project 2025 ideologies. And what they're saying to the American public is, we don't care about your public opinion. We don't care about your vote. We don't care about democracy. What we care about is this ideology, and however we're going to get it done, we will have done it in a very clandestine, behind the scenes way that will eradicate the ability for people like our audience members and us to have a say-so in it through democracy by eradicating the ability for democracy to even have our ability to do this. And that's what bothers the shit out of me is how are you not giving the American people the choice in a democracy to do what they care about? So you look at every public opinion poll for things across like, you know, gay rights, abortion, concerns about infrastructure, jobs, inflation. Look, you want to blame Democrats and Republicans, great. That's what a democracy is all about. You want to vote Republican or vote Democrat, great, because that's what a democracy is all about. I got some real huge issues with this pissant group of Republicans basically saying we're going to thwart votes, thwart democracy, thwart the entire American experiment, and dismantle that by essentially infiltrating it from the inside, creating a Gestapo of fuckers who are putting these TikToks up to not only embarrass, but create a common enemy out of people who are trying to keep the democratic process and infiltrate in areas of influence to eradicate people's ability to have a say-so in this country. So yes, Doc, you're absolutely right. I think this Oklahoma guy is falling in line in this direct shit because this kind of sycophantic fucker is the exact kind of guy who will do a stunt like this just to gain favor, just to be at the head of his like 1984 George Orwellian like agenda. This is scary shit. And when like our audience is like, oh my God, like what the hell is happening? I'm like, yeah, this is happening. They're like, what does this have to do with education? I'm like, education is a public utility that is now trying to be eradicated, and not just eradicated, is trying to be conformed into Christian thought. Now, I want to know who in our audience wants to be forced to hear Christian thought versus having the option of hearing it at your respective church. Do you? Yeah. Is that what you want, Doc? You want?
So speaking of these divide and conquer politics that these people are playing, and I think you're 100% right. You're talking about the dismantling of democracy via the infrastructure, right? Take a look at this. This is classic right here. This is Ari Fleischer, right? Former White House chief of staff or whatever. Yeah, PA Governor Josh Shapiro should change parties. Pro-Israel candidates are welcome in the GOP. Gets a retweet by Betsy DeVos, who's the former, education, whatever the title is called.
Secretary of Education.
Yeah, under Trump. Pro-school candidates too. These are two grown-ups, right? Playing divide and conquer, right? Over two very emotional issues, man. This is what it's come down to, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's who these people. I mean, listen, man, but that's what's at stake right now, right? I think there are sides. I think there are people in leadership positions. I think that, there are people locked in on either side of where our country is divided at right now. And I think that the vast majority is in the middle. And you might be leaning left and you might be leaning right. But I think for the most part, people want sane leadership. I think but when you drive this narrative, this replacement theory narrative, when you've told white people that they about to be replaced and out of power and out of favor, they scared of y'all. Look, they already doing stuff on this side. The black side, but they've been at 12 and 13% for 30 years. We handled them. Jail, fathers, all that stuff. They're trying to court y'all. They trying to court brown people and their type of brown that came in a certain type of way. And I think that it's like, who's going to sign on the dotted line next to become white? I think that that's where we are. And I think that you do that by saying, hey, they know Betsy DeVos isn't dumb. She knows that Shapiro is a rising star on the left. He's going to be able to do whatever he wants. He's going to if they win, he's going to get tapped to do something. What she's trying to go at is those fringe Democrats who do believe in choice and who might be pro-Israel, who are saying, hey, look at what they're doing. Your guy didn't get picked because he's a Zionist and he's pro-choice. So if they're going to do that to him, what do you think they're going to do to you? It's very much dog whistling. Everybody is fighting for the undecided middle. And here's the thing, this is our fault as a country who doesn't have a real democracy. We have a democratic republic, but we don't have a real democracy. And what happens is it behooves you in this country to be undecided until the last minute. It behooves you to be in this I don't know who I like, because at the end of the day, you become some of the only people that matter. Every bit of words that go out is to get you, whether it's left or right. And again, we probably should have been a political podcast too. We probably should make one on the Hills, but I don't know if everybody, sometimes I forget and I assume that everybody is that locked in and that engaged, but they're not. Like when you go into, I was just in Indianapolis, Fox News is on everywhere. It's on everywhere. And these are nice people. These are great people. And these are not just white people. These are black people. These are brown people. These are Asian people. And when you see certain things come up on Fox News and you're watching a room react to that, like just off top, and it's like, oh shit, like my friends in California, my friends in Chicago, my friends in New York, like I don't think you understand. Like, right, like they have a plan that they're driving hard on. And it's just sad, man. It really is sad. This country depends on you not being very engaged or very enthused about something so it can grab an emotion and wring it out. So Shapiro's going to be fine. But what about those fringe Shapiro supporters that wanted that guy in? And it's like Fox News is going to tell them over and over, well, you know, it's because he's because he likes Jewish people and because he's a school choice person and they don't like you. Like you're not woke enough for them. And I think it is scaring some people. And I think it's sad, man. And I think that it bothers me.
I mean, you're right about you're right about the whole thing, right? But I think what hit like a specific note is that the complacency factor is what everyone is counting on. Like, don't pay attention to this. It's like magicians, right? It's like, what is it called? It's not called a distraction. It's like, look over here.
Look over here.
Right? Yeah. And really, I feel like that is what the Republican Party is trying to do here is like, look over here so that you don't see what's happening over here. And I think the Josh Shapiro thing is like a really perfect example, like you said, of like divide and conquer. It's basically trying to disenfranchise votes in a place like Pennsylvania that's going to be a swing state to try to get other folks who would jump onto the Democratic train to basically question their allegiance and being like, you want to jump on this like Republican gravy train, but not even realizing that the Republican train right now isn't even trying to deal with the election. What they're essentially trying to do is nullify election results from within the system. And that is what scares the shit out of me. And it's what no one's talking about. And it's what no one's pointing attention to. So as we have these culture war overs here, and by the way, I always like, just for our audience, and I think our audience knows this, these culture wars are a ludicrous distraction from the truly nefarious things that are going on. And like translated, there's some really upsetting shit that is happening that are people trying to do. And they're using the culture war as a way of distracting you from really insidious things. Like, hey, how do we just like get this, like the courts and the Supreme Court on our side for the next 30 years? How do we destroy election results? How do we destroy democracy? And this is not hyperbole. These are things that are well outlined in not just Project 2025, which everyone talks about. Read Steve Bannon and Jeff Sessions. So for those of you who may not remember, Steve Bannon was like Donald Trump's chief strategist. He owned Breitbart News. This is the dipshit that said he was going to build a private wall, started like a GoFundMe, accumulated millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to build the private wall, and then stole all that money and was caught.
Where is he at right now? Where is he at right now?
Yeah, dude, exactly.
Where is he?
He is serving some jail time, but is going to be out in a few months and then going right back to counseling Trump, right? Same with Giuliani, right? And then Jeff Sessions was the original attorney general for the Trump administration, but Sessions and Bannon wrote this incredible like manifesto. Read that manifesto, dude. It is word by word very much aligned with what Project 2025 is talking about. Too many immigrants are coming in. Brown people are procreating way too much, and white Christian nationals are going to lose their footing as the power structure in this country. So here is the script. Here is the plan. This is how we get white Christian nationals right back in. By the way, Jeff Sessions ties to the KKK. That man's from Alabama. And I'm not making that up either. I'm talking about written, direct ties to the Ku Klux Klan. And that man was the Attorney General. And that is the man that has been devising this plan along with all these other conservative folks to basically dismantle your education, dismantle your voice, dismantle the idea of trying to move America into a progressive place where everyone has equal rights, right back into, like, I don't know, antebellum of the United States, where you have a permanent underclass, where you have laws that essentially basically displace minorities and women, where white Christian nationals are, I don't know, going to be given all sorts of fun rights, and our rights are going to be compromised once again, which, by the way, like, everyone thinks, no, that can't happen. America's past racism. I'm like, no, man, like, this has been alive and well since Oliver Stone in the Nixon era. And they've been plotting this shit since the Nixon era. And they've just kind of finally figured out, like, hey, man, maybe if we just screw the election and steal this shit.
Well, I mean, oh, sorry.
This Oklahoma dude is, no, I'm just saying this Oklahoma thing ties into it. People should be awake to realize what the hell's going on. But I got to ask, like, you guys far smarter than I, what the hell are we supposed to do about it? We can talk about it, but I'm wondering, what are we really supposed to do about it? That's what kind of keeps me up at night.
I think one you have to kind of pay attention to the larger thing at hand. You have to know what is distraction and what is a part of the plan. And again, these people are smart. Like, I mean, I know some people might disagree and be like, no, they're assholes and they're dumb. And they're not, though. They might be assholes, but not dumb. Like, these plans have been in place for a long time, long before the Nixon. If this book is about the education of blacks in the South, and it says from 1860 to 1935 by Dr. James D. Anderson out of University of Illinois. And basically, what even in this, it was about the struggle for early public education, like right after slavery, when that happened, where you had the South didn't want it at all, and then the North did want education, but they wanted a specific type of education that led to basically cheap labor. How do we are able to use these black people to be this cheap labor and kind of spread that out? And if that plan doesn't work, it's in here. It's written down, and you can see it in, like, original documents. These manifestos have been happening since the 1800s, and even before then, they said it very clearly. If we cannot control education here and take this from them, which turns into this type of labor, then we'll have to do this thing called globalization. We'll have to find people outside to be able to do X, Y, and Z, right? Like, there's always a plan. The plan just gets updated. The plan just gets, and again, but if I can distract you by attacking things that you are mostly tied to, like whether it's religious schools or whether it's vouchers or whether it's, bathroom bans or whatever it is that I can keep you on an emotional string, I can keep filling up the courts with the judges that I want. I can make sure that when Ruth Bader Ginsburg denies Barack Obama the opportunity to get a new justice in, like, as soon as we win, this is what we're doing. Let them call Trump a buffoon all the way. Hey, how many new judges do we have? Great. And exactly what you said, Omar, and I know we need to close, David, so I'll shut up here. If it's tight, if this race is any type of tight, in any type of swing that has one of these type of leaders, the Democrats are not winning that state. Like,
that's what we're saying. Yeah.
And I got my judges. That's the thing that people got to really be paying attention to, because we're setting up the take in front of you. The take is we're robbing you in front of you, but go ahead and be emotional about this other thing and call us dumb and buffoons and JD Vance this and all that. So, David, I've definitely overstayed my talking welcome, but go ahead and do your thing, brother. This is one of them topics, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think get going. So two things. I think I don't know if this particular, like, Democratic ticket is gonna, It'll be interesting to see what their ultimate education platform is. I think we know what the Republican platform is going to look like around education, and they're the way that they're going to frame education. So I think that's something that we can pay attention to, something that we can do. I think the other piece, Omar, is we should definitely dissect what you were talking about earlier, just in terms of let's dissect on a future show the mechanics of what this could look like in terms of the infrastructure that Donald Trump has put into place when he was in office through judges and other infrastructure, and what that could actually look like for them to potentially work towards stealing or reversing the popular vote. I think that'd be really interesting to kind of focus in on that. So, and just in terms of the show, I think this is one thing that we could do. We can just bring these topics up for us to talk about, for our audience to dialogue with us about. It's obviously a very big topic. We started on Oklahoma and we ended up, in a much bigger place. But I guess that's kind of how we do it. So
that's how we do it. Well, I know we're at time. I don't know if you want to, if you got time. I know I got to run in a little bit, but you guys can definitely keep going. But
no, man, I got to run too.
You want us to go into final thoughts, David, or?
That was my final thought. Yeah.
Oh, that was your final thought. Oh, okay. Well, here,
yeah.
I'll give mine and let Omar take us out then. So he can, since he got here a little late and he can expand on what he needs to. I would just say this, man. I echo everything you said, David. I think that, part of this means that we have to be a more informed user base. We have to be able to think about and discern these things on our own. And you got to know when you are the product. If you're not sure of what the product is, then you are the product. And so even as I talk about this, right, it's how do I talk about this in a way that informs people without telling them necessarily what to do? But hey, man, look at the larger play here, or look at, when somebody's trying to get you to do something, they're going to definitely give a little. And before you know it, you might be trapped inside of something. I think that's what Oklahoma is doing. I think that this right-wing movement, people have to stop being surprised when you hit a faction and a faction hits back. Just understand when you are in a fight, and understand that there's going to be blows left and right, but you got to keep your head on the swivel and your eyes on the prize. And that's what I would say in my final thought.
No, I mean, I'll be very swift and say education is this really interesting, I would say, fishbowl or microcosm of if you pay attention to what's going on in education, you may see very interesting patterns about what's going on nationally. So what do I mean by that? Guys, how many conversations do we have where they were bringing in these far right people into school boards in order to start shifting the ability for school districts to start doing this kind of stuff? Now it's not even the school board. Now it's a state superintendent. In Louisiana, you're seeing that conjunction of a state superintendent with a governor. And Doc, just to reiterate, Doc's very good point is that they are in a very aligned way of how are we basically destroying people's ability to make decisions about their lives, because what the Republican Party is essentially saying is you don't know better, we know better. It's Hobbes at its best. So if you've ever read The Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, amazing political science book, and it's basically saying the people don't know what to do, so we're just going to put a supreme leader in place that is going to force the people to do what is best. And that is what we're seeing here. And if you pay attention to what's going on educationally, it's not just that it affects education, it's a way of seeing the ability for these folks to infiltrate these sects that people don't pay attention to in order to manipulate your ability as a citizen to have a say in your own life. And when this election is saying democracy is truly on the ballot, democracy is actually truly on the ballot, and it's freaking me out. And I shared the Rolling Stone article with our team. We will share that out with you all so that you all can take a look to see what it is that I was referring to. And I think that we should continue this dive because it's not just education at stake here. It's our very ability to exercise our democratic right to have a voice that's at stake.
Yeah, man. Well,
Dave?
That's
well,
it.
I don't know if you want to close us out, David. I can close us out. I would also say our sister on the show, she is going to be out for a while due to a medical condition. I would say keep her in your prayers. We talk to her all the time. So if you are watching Jube, we love you. We miss you. We will. Your seat will always be warm and ready here. But for Jubilee, yes, I will. My screen is going to freeze, but it's worth it. Just there you go. It's going to. Oh, I took it off. Good. So my screen doesn't freeze anymore. But for Jubilee, that's Omar. That's David. I'm Charles. And we will see you all same bad time, same bad station next week. Even though I will be out. I'm going to be out the country, y'all. So y'all got to hold it down.